Today we're going to be looking at measures of central tendency, levels of data. It's an important concept. A measure of central tendency is a powerful tool that can represent numbers and summarize numbers in a way that's meaningful and easy to explain. But in order to do so, we have to link our measure of central tendency with the correct level of measurement. So in today's exercise, we're going to look at data, types of data, and the appropriate level of measurement to use for each level of data. The first level of measurement we're going to look at is the mode. It's the most frequently occurring number. If the variable we are measuring has as a characteristic of its values, that's the different elements of the variable, nothing other than exclusivity between the values, we use the mode. Some examples of this are gender, race and ethnicity, political views, religion. The name for this type of variable is a nominal variable. It's one that has no order, but which we can use to sort into categories. Here, I've sorted men and women in a small hypothetical data set that we've used, and the modal category here is men. There are 14 men versus 10 women in this hypothetical data set. So that's the value in this data set that occurs the most. To the data that we have, are they able to be rank ordered? Can they be rank ordered, but there's no real logical space between the variables? Well, for example, if I'm looking at the results of a race or a pie eating contest, nobody's going to come in and scoring at 1.5, right? Nobody's going to come in at 1.5 on a pie eating contest. Basically, what I have here is a stress level indicator, right, with the median values of at 3, okay? If you can rank order this, and the distance between the ranks doesn't really have any real meaning. Ranks, pie eating contests, or scales 1 to 5 to 1 to 10, then sometimes you can use the median level of measurement. So basically here we have the frequency distribution. How many people fall into each category, right? Okay, 5 people fell in that middle category, number 3, and then we have a bar chart down here. But let's go ahead and look at what the median looks like. So here we have the median and the mode. The median, again, is the number that's in the middle of this distribution of rank-ordered numbers, and the mode is the number that occurs the most. In other words, the response here is most people identified themselves as very stressed in this small hypothetical data set, and the median number, the number that occurred in the middle, is 4, right? Which means that 50% of the people answered 4 or below, and 50% of the people answered 5. Okay, so that's basically a measure that we use, when we're looking at this. This median, the level of analysis that we use when we're looking at logically rank ordered number, is called the ordinal level. The ordinal level of measurement. Sometimes we have variables that have a true meaningful 0. Age, income, wealth, intelligence quotients, for example. And you can also divide these types of variables into infinitely small points. Age, for one. Remember when you were a child and you said, I'm 1.5 years old, right? They're continuous. That's another characteristic of these variables. And they technically have an infinite range. We call these variables interval level variables. We can measure the central numbers for an interval level variable using the mean. We calculate the mean when we sum up all values for a variable and divide by the number of cases. But when we sum all values for a variable and divide the number of cases, sometimes there can be a number that is way off. Think, for example, of how Bill Gates included in the average for income for the state of Washington will throw that off. I mean, he makes $1 billion a year. So everybody is going to look wealthy if they live in Washington. So how do we deal with this when we're looking at this measure of central tendency? Well, we compare the median here and the mean. And if there's a substantial difference, that indicates something to us. If we look at this small hypothetical data set, right, we see that most people in the data set, if we just look at the mode, for example, the modal, the value that occurs the most is 20. The mean is about 18.616 years, and the median is 18 years. Why? Well, there was one outlier. There was one case in the data set where the age was 12. Okay, so here the mean and the median are not that different, and you could go ahead and use the mean here. If there was a substantial difference in the difference between the mean and the median, you might want to consider using the median for describing your measure of central tendency, for describing your numerical data. So to summarize, we have a decision tree. First, is a variable I'm describing categorical? That is, does it have as its characteristic only exclusive categories, race, gender, and religion, which can't be rank ordered? Then it's a nominal variable. If the answer is yes, use mode only as your measure of central tendency. If not, let's look at the variable some more. Is the variable I'm describing able to be placed in logical order, but with no meaning between the values of the order? It's an ordinal level variable, and you can logically use as a measure of central tendency the mode and the median. Is the variable I'm describing one where there's a true zero with theoretically infinite value? Is the variable continuous? Then it's an interval level variable, and you want to use the median and the mean. But there's one more step we need to go through. Is there a big difference between the median and the mean? If there's a big difference, then, and the answer is yes, then consider using the median in your description of measure of central tendency for your variable. If the answer is no, then consider using the mean as your descriptor. Hopefully this helps. I think this should get you to thinking correctly about the variable.